You find a seat, you get comfortable, because tonight's going to be an experience. All right? What's happening right now is a continuation of a long-time struggle between good and evil. And that's the only way that I can say, because that's the truth. And I specialize in the truth. The truth is what I was born in, as well as other black African people in the struggle. If you're black and you're African, you were born in the struggle. There's no other way around it. Because of the simple fact is, when you look at metaphysics, the cross-section between physics and spirituality and pretty much other subject areas, you see that we are a manifestation of our ancestors. Everything that our ancestors go through gets repeated over and over again, even when we don't know it ourselves. So when you are an African born in the Western Hemisphere and you come from a place of not knowing your history, all right, and you come from a place of having your history taken away from you by those same vicious forces, there's always something deep down inside you yearning to find that peace. And for too long, we have lost our memory as African people in this country. But there's an awakening that's coming. There's an awakening that's been coming for a very, very long time. And it's coming back. And people are very interested. People are desirous to the very point where they want to give up their lives, where they want to give up the basic comforts that they have to find that history, right? And to make sure that those who have taken that history can atone for those mistakes in taking that history, because that is the greatest rape in all of man and womankind. People love talking about the Me Too movement. Let's talk about Me Too with the black Africans. What about the black Africans who have European last names, who don't know what village, what tribe they came from? What about the black Africans who can't trace their lineage past 7 or 8 generations because somebody took them from their homeland and brought them here? Let's talk about the black Africans today who don't know that River Road in Bethesda was once a thriving community that was gentrified by force. You understand? These are the things that we have to talk about that people are very afraid to talk about. But me, I have no fear, right? And I often bring people on this show who have no fear as well, who aren't afraid to tell the truth, because that's what All Eyes on DC is about. If this is your first time here, you have to understand that DC is a microcosm of the Babylonian society that black African people have to fight in and day out. With DC being an intersection of local, national, and international politics, you have a subsection of the DC community that is ostracized, that is often hidden from tourists that come into this city. And gentrification was a means of erasing those people while others flourish. And then they call us minorities, when in fact we are the majority of the world. You're talking about 75 to 90% of people, depending on your classification of what is black. As a matter of fact, the whole color caste system is a joke and pretty much a manifestation of efforts to consolidate power among a minority that wants to keep its history, that wants to hold on and take the knowledge from the others because they know the power of that knowledge. All right? Our people suffer from a lack of knowledge, and every time we try to get it back, that we're working to get it back, there are forces against us that want to make sure that we stay ignorant. And because we stay in ignorance, we do stuff to ourselves, but it's not our fault. It's not our fault. And like I said, there's an awakening happening in this global black African community that you guys are going to hear about tonight. And let tonight be a testament to the power of cultural and spiritual knowledge being passed down from generation to generation to generation, because this is not to be taken for a joke. This happened systematically, and this happened as a means to make sure that black African people never had a fighting chance in this world. They took Malcolm, they took Martin Luther King Jr., they took Huey P. Newton, they took Medgar Evers, right? They ran Ida B. Wells centuries before out of her Memphis home. She couldn't return for 30 years, right? They beat Fannie Lou Hamer, okay, until part of her organs collapsed, you understand? They've done a number to our people. You understand? They've done a number to our people, but it's not just suffering that we're known for. We're known for much more than that, you understand? Because before Ma'afa, you had people who pretty much built the whole entire world. They built River Road. They built DC, okay? They built Toby Town, all right? But they never will get credit for that, because when you go through those neighborhoods today, you see a totally different thing. And people who remain ignorant and who want to stay in ignorance, they will attribute it to the government. They will attribute it to the powers that be without understanding that it was pure black African ingenuity that brought those places here. So tonight is much more than us featuring people who are doing well for their community. This is a matter of retaining cultural and spiritual history. Once again, this is a matter of retaining cultural and spiritual history that will save the black African nation and save our youth. Because if the youth don't know where they come from, they're going to run rampant in the streets, and that's exactly what's happening. And for those of y'all who take this for a joke, please understand that just like a virus needs something to hold on to. So today, it might be their own people that they come after, but tomorrow it might be in other communities. And it's such a shame. It's such a shame that nothing ever happens as far as making change until it hits other people. That's when others get concerned. You understand? We need to have empathy for one another, and we need to understand the beast that was unleashed upon us hundreds upon hundreds of years ago. And if we go away from this show having that, then I'm all right with that. But please understand, that's what All Eyes on DC is about. Today's show, like I said before, I didn't say it directly. For those of y'all who are new here, I usually make these spiels, and that's fine. I appreciate y'all listening. We're celebrating our black African ancestors. African being the African blood that runs through each and every one of us in the diaspora, and black being that consciousness of where we are in that caste system. Not at the bottom of the caste system, because understand that black is the origin from which everything else emanates. And once you forget that, you forget everything else about yourself, which is why the All Eyes on DC movement is pretty much a manifestation of us, to make sure that we keep that memory of ourselves. So we're talking about maintaining history and journaling and keeping record of who we are as black African people. So in the spirit of that, I brought on a woman who I met a couple months ago when I jumped back into the journalism industry. Her name is Miss Marsha Adebayo, Coleman-Adebayo.
Dr. Marsha.
Hey, listen.
That part.
And shout out to Mama Lucy too. Mama Lucy never holds back in correcting me, and I appreciate her very much for that. All right, Dr. Marsha Coleman-Adebayo. Okay, she, as the social justice coordinator of the Macedonia Baptist Church, guys, I need, hey, family. Hey, cuz, let me tell you, look, listen, this is a show, y'all, and people are recording. Facebook Live is on right now, and we're talking about black African history. So I need everybody to pay attention, please, all right? Okay, now, Dr. Marsha Coleman-Adebayo, as the social justice director, coordinator of the Macedonia Baptist Church, she has organized, along with others who we will feature tonight, she has organized a movement around saving and memorializing an African burial ground along River Road that has been the center of a contentious fight between the people in that community and Montgomery County Housing Opportunities Commission. As of recently, you have to understand how Babylon works. For those of y'all who know your biblical history and where that history comes from, Babylon is a place where we lost our mother tongue and where we lost our knowledge of self, and where government comes in and controls everything. So government worked with the powers that be that had the money to take that land ownership from them to hide their intentions behind it, because they thought that these people were going to pretty much settle down and forget about their movement, but they didn't. And this is why they're here tonight. So we have to give them a hand for that. Give them a hand, family. Give them a hand. So along with Dr. Coleman-Adebayo, shout out to Mama Lucy, all right? We got Mr. Harvey Matthews, all right? Let's give him a hand, family, please, y'all. Give him a hand. Give him a hand. Real cool brother, real cool elder. A brother with a lot of knowledge. And this speaks to the power of passing down that ancestral knowledge, because as a young person, I'm very transparent about who I am. I haven't even hit 30 yet. And I'm very humble in saying that, you understand? Because, you know, people like to say, Sam, you look so old for your age. That's just me being around elders all the time because they hip you to stuff, you understand? I know what I don't know. And I ask them the answers to what I don't know, and they ask me questions back so that I can try to figure out what it is I don't know and the answers to it. You understand? So I'm very grateful for that ancestral knowledge. And today, we're going to get that because, like I told y'all before, we are our ancestors reincarnated. So with Mr. Matthews comes a lot, hundreds of years of knowledge, generations. There's generations within Mr. Harvey right there. He's going to drop that knowledge tonight. Okay? So I really want you guys to sit back, hold tight. If you want to take out a sheet of paper and write down something, by all means do so. Have your questions ready. This is the real turn up. All right? I stopped drinking about 15 months ago. I don't turn up like that no more. I turn up like this. I get high off of this right here, off of passing down knowledge and bringing it back and forth with my people. You hear me? So we're going to make it happen tonight. Here's the rundown. First, Mama Lucy and the Black Workers Chorus. They're going to open up with a selection, okay? I want you guys to just get yourselves in that mindset of just hearing this beautiful music, you know. We as African people, we like repetition, we like the beat, because that's our heartbeat, you understand? Like I said, we don't compartmentalize subjects. You know, that's a very, very new concept, breaking this down here, breaking that down here. So you about to learn math, English, science, so forth and so on with this music here, okay? That's the first thing. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to show a 12, 13-minute video about the River Road community and about that African burial ground, just to prime your knowledge, pretty much, to get your appetite wet for what's about to happen. And then the main show, which is our interview with Dr. Coleman-Adebayo and with Baba Harvey in the back. And from what I recall, we have another guest. You know, he was from Potomac, but you know, it's fine. Tobytown, exactly, Tobytown, another community. So, you know, that's our lineup for tonight. So I really want you guys to sit back. If you're excited, let me get a yeah.
Yeah.
All right, one more time, let me get a yeah.
Yeah.
All right, beautiful, man, beautiful. Mama Lucy, let's give her a hand, y'all, please. I gotta go harder than that, come on. Oh, okay.
I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish I could break all these chains holding me. I wish you could see what it means to be me. Then you would see and agree that everybody should be free. I wish I could share all the love that's in my heart and remove all the bars that still keep us apart. I wish you could see what it means to be me. Then you will see and agree that everybody should be free. I wish I could give like I'm longing to give. I wish I could live like I'm longing to live. I wish I could do all the things that I can do, though I'm way overdue. I'll be starting anew. I wish I could be like a bird in the sky. How sweet it would be if I found I could fly. I'd soar to the sun, and then I'd look down upon the sea, and then I would sing, 'cause I know how it feels to be free. How it feels to be free. How it feels changes the vibration. I'd like to do a song with you that is about holding on to where we are. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. Just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. We'll stand and fight together. We'll stand and fight together. We shall not be moved. We'll stand and fight together. We shall not be moved. Just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. The people are united. The people are united. We shall not be moved. The people are united. We shall not be moved. Just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. United in the struggle. United in the struggle. We shall not be moved. United in the struggle. We shall not be moved. Just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. En español? No! 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 No nos moverán. No! 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 No nos moverán como un árbol firme, firme junto al río. No nos moverá. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. Just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. God's so good.
Family, let's give Mama Lucy another hand, y'all. Y'all be right by her. Hey, shout out to y'all who just came in. You know, feel free to get some treats from the cafe. How many of y'all got something from the cafe? All right, good. Please support Brother Tensai, and family. All right, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about legacy right there, y'all. Legacy. All right. So to get the party started, we're about to show a video. It's about 12, 13 minutes. Sis Giselle, I'm not sure if she's still here. If you can just cue the video up. She back there? All right, bet that, right there. Sister Alexis, appreciate y'all. Let's give her a hand, y'all. Let's give her a hand, y'all. All right, so before we get the video started, I'll let the video talk for itself. I've done enough talking for tonight. At this point, the video is just going to show. Like I said, I want you guys to please just sit back, relax, and take in what you're about to watch, all right? Peace.
What does justice look like for the descendants of a once thriving African colony on River Road in Montgomery County, Maryland? This community, founded by kidnapped West and Central African peoples, has survived 300 years of barbaric and savage treatment by early European American settlers. After emancipation, they and their descendants built their lives in the primary arteries of modern-day Bethesda, despite the terror of lynchings and Jim Crow segregation.
I was born here, right here on River Road. We go down my whole group and I was showing you little football trees and yards and things where I actually lived at and labored at. But you cannot tell me about River Road, but it was a black community. And I have a brother here right now that just walked up, was born and raised here with me. And these are things that we did here. We were loving people, happy families here. We worked here. We worked in the quarries. We built around the football. We built the bomb shelter in the White House. And they used to come down here with a little train and people up down here at the train and came on down the track to Georgetown.
Today, the River Road African community has been forgotten. Their homes have been replaced by shopping centers. Their cemetery intentionally desecrated and paved over to make a parking lot. All that remains is the church they built nearly 100 years ago, Macedonia Baptist Church.
You know, we've done a great historical doomless service to the African American community in this county for a very, very long time.
The things that happened to the graveyard that was associated with this church are very disturbing.
A black church had its cemetery robbed of them. And then after that, all sorts of scams have been played to keep them from having access to their cemetery and honoring their dead. That's a moral affront to all of us.
Sometimes racism looks like a parking lot. When it's built on top of first generation freed slaves.
In fact, Regency Centers, a $13 billion corporation, along with local government, has approved plans to build a parking garage on top of the sacred Moses Cemetery. The Macedonia Baptist Church, Bethesda, and the Montgomery County community rose up in protest.
We at Macedonia are ready to join your cause to fight for that which is just and good and righteous.
When the government could no longer ignore the protesters, they called the police. The county executive's office summoned armed police officers on the pastor of Macedonia Baptist Church, the Reverend Coleman-Adebayo. But the church and its supporters refused to give up. They challenged police intimidation and forced the police to stand down. And nearly 2 years later, those plans to build a parking garage on top of the Moses Cemetery have yet to see the light of day. In the dead of night, and fearing the growing power of the Moses burial ground struggle, Regency Centers sold the cemetery to the Montgomery County Housing Opportunities Commission for $20.5 million. As a result of our struggle, the Montgomery County Council passed new legislation to create a cemetery registry. Yet the fight isn't over. HOC claims they don't have any plans for the cemetery.
If you don't have any money to give it to us, we have this one.
If I could have one wish for our 100th birthday, I'd like to break ground across the street on the River Road African Museum.
HOC says that nobody cares about our history. That is what the powerful always claim as they pillage and desecrate. They're wrong.
Our community's history has been literally paved over and erased. And that erasure continues as public officials debate whether or not the cemetery really existed and whether or not any kind of action needs to be taken to right this wrong.
Remember many years ago an apple fell from the tree and Newton discovered gravity. Here, black graves in the Moses Cemetery have been desecrated for decades,
and we have not discovered humanity.
And the idea that we would say here in Montgomery County that those 500 souls across the street don't deserve to have their history honored is a travesty.
Black lives matter in death as in life.
Creating a memorial to the lives of those buried in Moses Cemetery should not be a big lift for the county. It is the right thing to do.
We give millions to other museums. It's time that we get it here.
I support the effort to memorialize the cemetery and to create the museum.
The cemeteries are places of deep significance and identity. The ancestors who rest or rested in the Moses African Cemetery gave rise to an entire community right here in Bethesda.
I will help you find the way to your museum to tell the stories of the freed Africans who lived here, who built their lives here, and to consecrate the cemetery for those who died here.
Because it's about heritage, it's about history, it's about remembrance, and it's about respect.
We can't pave over the past. If we want to build a better, a brighter, and a more inclusive future.
If we don't fight for the lives of all black people on a local level, then how do we expect to change that on a country level?
We have to make the county agencies responsible to all of our needs.
We are going to build that museum, and if they don't want to approve it, then maybe we need some new HOC commissioners.
What does justice look like? In order for Montgomery County to heal its centuries-old wounds, we must acknowledge that crimes against humanity were committed against the River Road African community.
It means the living relatives of the people buried on their driveway have no place they can go to be with their family members who have passed away.
We must hold the institutions responsible for that suffering accountable.
I want to thank you for turning your back on the small group of citizens who came month after month to beg you for explanations. Your silence, your executive staff's silence, your refusal to return our telephone calls, refusal to answer our emails, taught us to go out into the community and tell what was happening to religious groups, to citizens action groups, to community groups, to political candidates all over this county.
We must teach our children to respect our ancestors as guides to a more peaceful and humane future.
I think we put less hill in 54 than we're getting now, because people have forgotten short memories of where we came from.
In doing that, we will build the beloved community envisioned by Dr. King. That is what justice looks like.
How'd y'all like that presentation?
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna take a couple minutes to set up. If you guys need to get a refill on your drinks or something like that, please feel free, because once the show gets started for real, you're not gonna wanna move, trust me. So give us a couple minutes. We're gonna set up the chairs again, we're gonna set up the sign, and get the All Eyes on DC stage ready for our guests, all right? Thank you, family.
That makes it different.
No, the chair.
Oh, the chair, sorry. I center it.
Scoot that one up. Grab that chair and scoot it off. Turn it back. Scoot it up now. Thank you.
Should I go around?
I'm ready when you go.
I didn't see him.
It's fine.
But Brother Harvey is here though.
Yeah, that's fine. We want to sit.
Sit over here, Brother Harvey can sit next to you.
Yeah.
Where is it going? Around here somewhere. I mean, yeah.
Huh?
You still see the same address?
I mean, yeah, but they're not really.
Not really? Does it really make a difference? Should I move it? No, I can't.
He told me he was in the grass. He told me he could be using it.
Yeah, we'll take it out. You gotta push it up. Push it up when you're ready. All right, family, we're back. We're ready. If I can get your attention, please. Welcome back to the All Eyes on DC show. You guys just saw a beautiful performance by Mama Lucy. She got us in the mode. And then we saw a 30-minute video about the River Road community in the Moses African Cemetery. I'm kindly asking that people in the back, family, we're gonna need sounds as much. We got Facebook Live going on right now. We need our people out in the soccer world to see what's going on. You guys have the privilege of being here live, so, you know, please be very, very empathetic to our folks in the cyber world. So, to my right, your left, I have Mr. Harvey Matthews. He is a pivotal member of the River Road community, born and raised there. He has ancestral claim to that community, and we invited him on the show to talk about that ancestral claim and just what he saw when he was living on the River Road community. And to my far right, your far left, once again we have the great Dr. Marsha Coleman-Adebayo, Social Justice Coordinator of the Macedonia Baptist Church along River Road. When you cross Rock Creek Park, you go through Friendship Heights, Tenleytown, you hit River Road, you're right there. Just to give you a sense of where the River Road community is. Welcome to the show, y'all. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
So let's jump right into it. As the video said, when this fight started, the Regency Development Company, they were vying for control of that land. And once the River Road community got an inkling of what was happening, y'all stepped in. And then the Housing Opportunities Commission, they jumped in and purchased that land from Regency. From what we can assume, we're going to make a very good inference here as a plot pretty much to hold on to that and to wait y'all out. What's the current status of that fight? From what I understand, y'all been going to the HOC every month, just testifying and putting pressure on the 9-person committee there. So what's the current status of this fight, if one of y'all can answer?
Well, let me start. Is this on?
Yeah, I put it on motion.
Hello? Can you hear me? Yeah. Hi. First of all, let me just thank everyone for coming out. This is an amazing opportunity for us that we don't take for granted, and we're very, very, very appreciative. Hello? Yeah. And we're very appreciative that you all are spending your evening with us, so thank you so much. Before we start, I just have to give some shout outs and some thank yous. First of all, I want to thank all the people who are part of the Bethesda African Burial Ground Project. Could you please raise your hand so everyone can see who you are? So thank you so much for coming out. I wanted to thank Surge, who's one of our major partners. We have Laura Ho here, who is the head of her, I know it's a horizontal organization, but she's the one that does like 90% of the leadership work, so thank you, Laura. I want to thank the director of the film, Katie Nolan, who just saw the film a few minutes ago. Thank you so much, Katie. I want to thank American University. I want to thank the professor, Adrian Pine, Dr. Adrian Pine. Would you mind throwing up your hand? Thank you. And American University students who came out tonight. Thank you so much. And of course, my dear friend, Mama Lucy. Thank you. She's my sister, not my mama. So thank you, sis. So what I'd like to say is that, and if I forgot anybody, please forgive me. What I'd like to say is that this has been a 2-year struggle. It's important to know that this struggle has not happened overnight. We have actually been very surprised that it's taken Montgomery County so long to recognize the importance of the Moses African Cemetery. We thought once we explained to the county that there were 500 souls buried underneath a parking lot, that the county would immediately think about doing the right thing. We were wrong. We were wrong because being right and being righteous and being morally correct was just not a part of the calculation of Montgomery County. And so, but one of the reasons why we were wrong, I think, is because we forgot a very central ingredient in our calculation, and that is that these 500 souls are buried under very expensive land. This is land in Bethesda that's worth about $1 million per square, whatever. And we have about 2 acres, maybe how large do you think the cemetery is? Maybe about a quarter?
About an acre and a quarter.
An acre and a quarter. So they are buried in very expensive land in Bethesda. But remember, all wars basically take place around one essential feature, and that is land. And so one of the reasons why the county and the government went after this community was because they were sitting and they were living on central property in Bethesda, Maryland. And this community, as we found out, has been an amazing community that none of us were supposed to find out about. This is a community that actually built the thoroughfare of Bethesda, Maryland. This is the community that built River Road, which is the central avenue in Bethesda. This is the community that built Bradley Boulevard, where all the Congress people and senators and all the millionaires live in Bethesda, Maryland. This is the community that actually were the miners for the very exquisite Bannockburn stone, which you probably see a lot around in this area. This is the community that built an entire community of doctors and lawyers and teachers and farmers and moms and dads. And they were landowners. 30 years after emancipation, this community was buying vast areas of land. They were buying land.
What?
And so so in that sense, they became a target because they were land owners. And the question for the county and for corporations is how are they going to separate this community from their land? So I just wanted to give you sort of a framework to understand what happened to this community. So for example, the land that Brother Harvey's family owned, which is now where Whole Foods is located in Bethesda. If you're going down River Road, you see a large Whole Foods. That land was just sold about 5 to 7 years ago for $65 million. 65. That's when we talk about destroying intergenerational wealth, that's what we're talking about. His family received pennies on the dollar, but now this land is worth $65 million. And the question is, who will be held accountable for that kind of thievery? And that's what this struggle is about. It is at the very center of the struggle and the conversation about reparations.
So what does the county have to say about this? You gave a pretty point explanation of why it's important, and earlier you said the moral argument didn't really suffice for them in this fight. But what are they saying, the HOC and just the powers that be, about the Moses African Cemetery?
Well, good evening. Welcome to have all your help. HOC is not saying too much. The HOC just recently started communicating with us. The last meeting we had with them on the first Wednesday of this month, the commissioner, chairperson, she decided to change verbally words with us. And we've been there almost 18 months trying to get them just to communicate. We have been in there protesting and holding signs and doing this and another, but it went on deaf ears. And it didn't respond to anything that we had to say, sending them letters, and we got in there protesting and testifying and testifying. And finally they talked to us, this last encounter we had with them. But pretty much they just sitting back, saying that the land that they just bought $20 million, and they're not planning on development on it. But anybody in the right mind that sits in this room, that if you buy something for that amount of money, that you plan on doing something with it. You're not just buying it just to say, oh, I own that. It doesn't work like that. So we're just waiting and watching and protesting and still trying to see what their intentions are. But we have to deal with fighting them with the point of, as Marsha said, with Surge, other white groups, and you all man will sit back and relax. I talk straight from the hip. I don't pull no punches, and I call a spade a spade. And without the white population of surrounding areas of our church, we would not be where we are today without their support. And I always take time out to thank them and let them know how much me as being a spokesman for the church appreciate their support and help us to fight this struggle.
So as far as that conversation that they finally had with y'all, 18 months into your visits to the HOC, what inkling, besides them saying they're just going to hold on to it now, they're not really doing anything out of it, do you see any sort of possibility that they're going to meet you halfway at least, or they're going to memorialize this ground in some way?
Well, what I was going to say is that we have no intention of compromising with these people. Compromise is not a part of our conversation. This is when that black folks in Montgomery County, in Bethesda, have a right to. They worked for it, they struggled for it. So there is no question of compromise. We are going to own that land again. And I think finally, the county is finally understanding that they have met an immovable force. For a while, they thought they could compromise, they could give us little trinkets, they could give us little whatever, take us out to dinner or give us sandwiches or something. And I think finally they've come to understand that we don't need their sandwiches and we don't need their trinkets. What we need is land. And so that is so we are not in the process of negotiating. So we are prepared to get arrested. We are prepared to do whatever it takes to get the land back. So there is no compromise. And so finally, I think they've heard that. And as you can see from the film, almost every public official who ran, every citizen who ran for public office came to Macedonia Baptist Church, this little teeny church that no one had ever thought about before. And they basically said, you know, we now support this struggle. In fact, we have some people here who ran for office. I'm not sure if you want me to identify you, Jim, but Jim was also on the video, his lovely wife, Donna. And so we have support in Montgomery County. And I think the reason why we have support in Montgomery County is because we decided to take a stand. We decided to take a stand. So I'm not into negotiating. We want land, period. So there is no negotiation. We will get it. I can tell you, we will get it.
I hear that, and I appreciate the fervor of this group. That's exactly why we're on the show tonight, and that's why we're here. If we could just talk more about the land and how it's important, I think the audience here and at home is very intrigued to know about what happened during the Reconstruction era when the freed Africans came to the River Road community. From what I understand, the River Road community was barren with red clay or something at one point. And you know us black African people, we can take anything and just make, turn it and flip it, So if you could just regale us with that information, just what happened from the moment that your ancestors settled on that land.
Well, it actually settled on that land, and you made reference to red clay. I had 4 or 5 ancestors. Used to take that clay, and when I was in my teens, and tell me to go out on the hill and get some of that red clay and bring it back to the house. And some of you might know, and some of you might don't know what a potbelly stove is. It's an old stove that had lids on it, and it's got a round belly at the bottom of it. And you take the lids off and cook your bread on it. Back in those times, you just laid it on top of the stove and you cook your bread. Your grandma made the homemade biscuits and laid them up there, and they would rise, but that was good eating when they made a homemade biscuits. So that was something that you missed today. They don't make them that way anymore. You just get a pan on, just spread them on the sheet pan, and they ride for themselves. And that clay was very important. Back there when we was in the grade school, we made ceramics out of that clay. And people used to take it and get starch and get a bag of that clay and shake it and mix it and eat that clay just like you would sit down and eat a chocolate piece of candy out of a box. And that clay became very, very, very popular. Then they took it and they built flat land where it was swamp areas, and they put field dirt from that clay in there. And River Road was built up like in a swamp area on one side of it, west of the railroad tracks, being on railroad tracks. And they filled it in. Right now, when we have this big struggle with the grave site with Westwood Towers. Westwood Towers was built in a swampy area. When they was building Westwood Towers, you heard about the cemetery. It took some long, hard talking. You know, Mr. Matthews into a meeting in Silver Spring, when he was having a meeting, and when it came up about building a garage over the remainder of the cemetery, they at that time acted though they wasn't aware of the cemetery. So I brought knowledge to that committee at that time that the cemetery was there when I was a teenager. I used to play in the cemetery, run around the gravestones. We used to play a game called hide and go seek. We would hide all behind those stones. Really, the white communities have little playgrounds. We didn't have any. But that cemetery was central our playground. That's where we played. Cut through had to go to school and burn places around that cemetery. But when they were building that cemetery, building that at Westport Towers, it's a service station right there on Westport. And I was affiliated with that service station maybe about 25 to 30 years. And when they was doing that construction, there never was any time at all that their grave body casket was removed from their grounds. They came in with the heavy equipment operators. They bulldozed it and they dug it up. They didn't haul it away. And then one of the construction workers came in that evening when we were shooting free time over at the service station. And the bulldozer operator said, you know what? They used to ring a bell every time they found human remains. They would ring a bell. And that work for that moment was shut down for a half hour. And then they would put those humane parts in grano sacks and haul them further up River Road to an area which like Tobytown and West Potomac and stuff like that. And the priest would go up and sanctionize those remains and expose them in the Potomac River on that end of River Road, which is known today as Tobytown. And that's where the black community is at today, and that's how come Tobytown has his name. But still, when you come back down there, and he said, tomorrow, I'm gonna dig a big trench, and I'm gonna do away with all that graveyard stuff over there, in that site, and I'm gonna put you in that trench, and I'm gonna cover it over. And they covered that over with something like about an estimate of 80 to 90 tons of dirt to spray that over. And then in the process of building the West Bar Towers, when they was building, you could see the irritation on the big clay hill. And the man who was building that towers used to say that he was afraid to come there one morning after a heavy rain and see those caskets coming down off that hill and going down in the bed of the creek. And that was his way of doing away with that, was to pave that parking lot with asphalt. So when it rained, it wouldn't disturb those grave sites.
Around what year was that when the man on the construction site had it in his mind that he was no longer gonna stop with every ring bell to move those remains up the road?
That was between 65 and 66.
And around what time would you say that people beyond the Black African River Road community knew that there was a grave site there?
My family left there in 59. We was going to school through the early 50s. We was aware that the cemetery was there. But when they started to develop the West Bar Shopping Center, and that was the thing that just changed that, and building the Westwood Towers. So the cemetery was something that they figured that they could run in and run out when nobody had any knowledge of it. And by all the blacks that just about moved from there, River Road, I was still there, around at the service station there. And that building was completed in 68, the year of 68. And everybody at the service station, the people around it, they had car garages, sheds, space for storing furniture and stuff. Was aware of that situation with those graves over there. And eventually they got them out of there. Until all of a sudden, when they had this meeting in Silver Spring, and here I come as being the descendant of River Road, they had knowledge of the cemetery, in which the county had prior knowledge to it, but they pretty much swept underneath the rug, and they didn't even allow to talk about it. And it was something they didn't talk about, but they didn't want it known after they had already built upon the cemetery.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, so would you say that the gentrification, because that's what it sounds like, so the colonization of the River Road community, it took place between the mid-50s and 68, where pretty much the black population got pushed out?
Yes.
And
it wasn't pushed out.
What was pushed out?
It was totally decimated.
Totally decimated, forgive me, where it was totally decimated, pretty much no inkling of the black community was left there after 68, pretty much.
Except the church.
Except for the church.
Church
Okay.
only thing.
So by 68, it was just Macedonia Baptist Church there, and the whole community was just gone, pretty much. And around 58, that's when you left the River Road community?
I left the River Road community in 59.
In 59.
I bought one of the last two homes to live, the last blacks to live there other than the church.
So for the young people in the room, you know, those of us who have little conception of just what it means for a community to be decimated, because in my mind, decimation, you know, can mean a whole bunch of things. It can be a sneaky way where they, you know, find a loophole in the rule to take it away, or it can be just through coercion. You know, what were the different ways that families were picked off one by one in the River Road community between 55 and 68?
But one of the main ways was water and sewage. Washington Urban Sanitation Committee came in there, and little by little, they cut homes off one at a time, and said the ones, when some of the young folks, I guess you know what it is now, 20 years old, so what they call an outhouse. And it was something that you put out in the yard. You dug a trench, and you put it in that spot. And when that spot got filled up, you slid it up, dug another 6-foot trench, you slid it open, you put a line, Lysol stuff in that spot where it was, and you kept right on rolling. But the thing was, when Washington Bourbon came in there, if you didn't have running water in your house, then that was one of the main weapons they used to disperse River Road as a group and as a community. They came in there saying like, well, 30 and 40,000 for you to get water and sewage. But where I lived on River Road, I was kind of fortunate because I was living next to one of the richest little sections of Montgomery County, and that was a place called Kenwood. And Kenwood is very popular in Bethesda, one of the richest parts in Bethesda. And my grandfather had the water pipe from the white homes that was in Kenwood, and had it piped to our home. And that's how we got rid of the outhouse, and we ended up with running water, flushing toilets, and all that. And it made them 3 homes on River Road that had running water in them. And Washington Suburban was the first tactic they used to get you out of there because of the sewage. In other places, they got Mr. Bill and Mr. Joe, who, got them steamed up off of booze and got them drunk up, had them sign their names on papers, or also put X. And they would tell you, well, you have a lifetime home here, them that would have you, and you always would be here. And then they would come back 30 days later and say, well, somebody came in with deep pockets with a lot of money and flashed it in their faces and told them that they had to move. So, and that was another way of getting them out. So just take your property, either get you intoxicated and beat you out your property, or tell you that you had to move because you had running water and sewage.
All right, so let's go over this just so that I'm clear. So you listed 3 ways here. They would use their rule about the sewage. If you didn't have pipes, they would use that to take your home away from you or take the land. That's one way.
Yeah.
The second way, they would trick you into signing away your property, right? And the third way was pretty much just buying the property, I guess, well below its value?
Way below the value.
Okay, so that sounds pretty familiar, you know, so this is like 55 to 68. Similar things been happening in DC since before the 2000s, you know, if you're talking about the whole 30-year plan here in DC. Mr. Harvey, I'm assuming that there were efforts between 55 and 68, once people started seeing their family and friends getting picked off one by one, to stop this thing, were they not?
Well, I'm gonna take you back in those times. Let me just give you the real nitty-gritty about a black man in Montgomery County. The average black man in Montgomery County during that time was actually totally down-earth, scared of the white man when he came into the community. So you didn't stay there and say yay or nay. He came in there with a big shiny car, pulled and said this and said that, told you what you had to do when you had to do it. It wasn't about that question, that reality of what it was and how it was and what you could do and what you could not do. And out of fear, they just dispersed and started leaving the road and going elsewhere. So it just all those little things just added up to what I call it. I can tell you like this, it was 62 homes there on the road, and maybe about 239 people lived within those homes. And just one by one, they just was run out, scared off or whatever, and wouldn't stand up. Because back in during that time, you can't do as you do today when you go to a law firm, over here, over there, and over there. You didn't have that. So black didn't have no salvation. The only salvation they had was Heavenly Father in heaven that they could cry out to and ask for some mercy and some grace that they may be forgiven and may be really given back what was taken from them during that time. But they didn't have lawyers and things like that today to go to help fight them to salvage their land. That the big time spenders from the government come to take away from them.
So River Road is pretty much surrounded by white communities. Is that what I'm hearing, or would you say? Would you say that?
Yes, it's River Road is surrounded by a white community. Up until 54, on River Road, we had an all-black school there on River Road, and that's where we went to school, right there. And in 54, when we passed integration, segregation, we started going to the all-white schools. And I went to the white schools around within River Road, and there was Somerset, Wood Acres, Green Acres, and those was on the elementary schools. Then from high school to Western Junior High, to Dillon Junior High, those type of schools. Then went to high schools, Bethesda, Chevy Chase, Walter Johnson, Whitman, and those kind of schools that we went to.
So integration was 54?
54.
54, yeah. Okay, perfect. So, with that being said, you know, why would they want that community at that point? You know, what was it about the River Road community? You know, if you can just describe what life was like for Black African people along River Road in the mid-50s.
Well, River Road was a tight little knit community. Everybody pretty much had something that they put in the garden. You had the pigs, the hoes, and I guess I was fortunate for my grandparents had also like a farm. We had horses and, you know, and dogs and chickens and all that. And I don't know if you ever seen a curry pigeon that you might have seen someone do where you put a little band on his leg, he go way down the other, drop that band on, and put another band on, he comes back bringing that message that somebody else sent you. But we had that on River Road. And then my father trained hunting dogs for the white men that lived in the surrounding communities. And that's what he did. He trained those dogs, taught them dogs how to hunt. And they used to pay my dad to do that. And we had 3 horses. And we used to clean the barns, and I used to stand out on the side of the road and sell horse manure to the people who lived in Kenwood and Potomac and all those places. So they had a little pretty garden that they had, and they would stop by and get that manure. And that's how we survived the road. Everybody ate. We had a family named Mr. Hatton. He used to go to West Virginia, Charlestown, West Virginia, with a truck and bring back the produce and disperse them on River Road. So we ate real well, you know, down River Road. So wasn't nobody like going to be at home or nothing like that. You know, so we had plenty as far as that went. But the thing is that I don't think I ever had time I might have went to be hungry because of lack of food. That wasn't the case. I mean, my grandparents, my dad, we had plenty. And I was telling Marsha them about during the time of Thanksgiving and Christmas, we didn't have to worry about any food then because white folks used to bring bushel baskets of food and knock on our door and give it to us. But you know, you heard people today how wealthy you get, but you never know until you had to be on the receiving end of somebody giving you a token of love or whatever it was, and just something say, well, we just want to treat y'all good right now, but we just stole everything y'all had, so y'all take these baskets of food and y'all keep it moving, you know. So that's pretty much where it was, and that's how it was. And I call that area now, I call it Lost Colony, because the kids from Maryland University, they don't know about no black community there on the road. I've had kids when I speak at the colleges and whatnot, come and ask me where did they live, where did they stay, what they stayed in, and how did they actually live, you know, and I explained that to them. But the thing of it was is that that's how we were. We was happy people there, you know, and until the time came to disperse of us, get us out of there. I had people that I called for interviews from the various TV stations, to meet me at the church. And they didn't know where the church was even located at. And also, some of the kids would tell me they rode with their mom and daddy coming down River Road, going down to Wisconsin Avenue, going into Georgetown. And they never knew a black church was there or a black community, you know, all those years. You know, so that's just the way it was. And if there's something was there, it's like a tornado or something that came and just, you know, wiped it off the map. But that wasn't the main living of River Road, but we did various things. But I mean, how do we get to certain places? I mean, I can remember when I could go to various stores such as the drug fair back in those days, you know, them today. And I used to go in with my ball team, and we'd be celebrating for winning the game. You had to get a cheeseburger and a cherry coke was a big thing back then. I could order it in the store, but I had to go outside to eat around the side in the alleyway. It was the same way with a little tavern back in those days. You ordered your food inside, you could sit at the counter, you go around in the alleyway, you slide a little sliding wooden door, and that's where you got your food on. You was black. And Hot Shop was the same way down in Wisconsin Avenue and Western Avenue, it was the same way. So I've been there and have done that where you couldn't be served. I could go in the bone alley and set pins, if you know what set pins was. Ain't this modern stuff you got now where you hit it and they come down and sweep them out the way. You sit back in and run from side to side to try to set the pins. So the white folks could bowl, but you couldn't bowl in there. You know, you could set pins in there, but you couldn't bowl in there. And that's the same thing with the various country clubs. You had Progression, you had Burning Tree, and you had Kenwood. But the man who built Kenwood, that was his motto. As long as he lived, that never black would ever step foot on Kenwood Country Club and play golf. And that's still today. Because I remember being a candidate, being there, when Mayor Washington came out of the District of Columbia and went out there for an early bird golf tournament one morning and teed his ball up. And he was quickly escorted off that golf course. He told, you know, blacks do not play here. If you want to play, you go burn.
Who was escorted off?
Mayor Washington, Walter Washington.
Walter Washington, wow. The first mayor of DC, huh?
Yes, sir. When he went there to play, he said, no, not here.
So that's very interesting. I don't mean to cut you off because, you know, to be transparent, I spent some time in Montgomery County as a young, you know, as an adolescent. And, you know, when you're an adolescent, a young black male adolescent in Montgomery County, you definitely see the racial caste system out there in terms of our relationship with the police. So what you're telling me is right now is like this has been going on for generations now, where pretty much you've had, you know, a white majority in power pretty much just inflicting all types of harm and whatever else on the black minority that's in that community or the black community itself.
Yes, oh yeah. It's funny thing about it, you just grow with it. And when everybody's first off the road, I mean, someone went to Northern Montgomery County, some went in the District of Columbia, some went to Virginia, some went as far as the Carolina, their place. But the things I look at the 6 o'clock news today and what I see and what I hear about the unjustified killings of blacks by police officers, and then you talk about where the camera went on at that particular time when that happened, and we didn't see it and all that. You know, the attorney here today like it did back in still in the 50s and the early 60s. And it really haven't changed in Montgomery County. Not only Montgomery County, in the metropolitan area. They still do the same thing today and get away scot-free with it. And nothing is done to the office. But you know, black young men are still losing their lives. Foolishly and miserably, this overstretched police officer has the right, because he has the gun, just to shoot them down like animals in the street. You know, and when will that day come when justice shall be served with that? When that's when he steps in up there and take full control. And when those bells be told, then that's when justice is going to be served. If you speak of black lives being matter, I feel reference that all lives matter, and the reference to come to that. But still, the black man has got no further to date in 2018 than I did in 1954 on River Road.
Can you talk? That's deep. Because we often talk about that in our circles, you know, so many piecemeal things being done as far as just, you know, recognizing black life and, you know, this social media campaign and that, but you're telling me that this is much deeper and this has been going on for a long time. You know, what did your elders tell you when you were coming up as far as just your relationship with the power structure out there? You know, what were lessons that you learned coming up, you know, being on River Road?
Well, being on River Road, not only myself, but the whole population of River Road. There's one thing you can say about blacks. They was taught to be very respectful to the elders, men to women, being courteous. You know, when I was coming up, he was, yes sir, no ma'am. Today is yay, nay, who, go, and all that. You know, that didn't happen in my household when I was coming up.
You forgot, huh?
You know,
What?
and it's not gonna happen in mine right now. You know, and when you go to school, one of the things when teacher say something, you say, yeah, no, yeah. You stayed at school. When I went across my dad's door sill, it cut off. So he was the boss in that. So he didn't do that. I go to the Safeway or Whole Foods today, and I see the kids in there tell mom where they can go when they come back. You know, so it's a big change. And I was telling the kids in the Sunday school class at church this past Sunday that when I was coming up, everybody in the church, man or woman, was your guardian. If you got out of line, they heard them put you in line. And with a lot of bushes out on the front lawn of the church. And when you got in church, you cut up, you know, then you would take a walk outside. And they reach up on that lala bush and get one of the branches up there. Fan you good, bring you back into church. You know how you see kids cry, they couldn't do that. They said, you better not move. When you go back in there, you better not move. You know, you stay still. You know, and my mom saw me in the choir in the church. And I'll be back in the back of church being mistress. And she ain't had to get up and come say nothing. Just that look was enough for me to get it in order. All she had to do was look back at me, and I cut it out. I cooled down. But if she ever got up, come out that choir loft like she was coming to get me, business picked up when we got on the outside. See? And that's the way it was. But today, I can't touch yours, you can't touch mine. Child abuse, this, that, and the third, and all that. And I think that's one of the things that has gotten us out of line with how we live today, is to discipline our kids in the household. Because it's not like it used to be in the old days. Because now when you spank, fan, and tail, the kids always go pick the phone up, dial 911, and they come get you for child abuse.
So as far as just like the respect for elders piece, right? You know, you're talking about, you know, because you're telling me that at one point in time, it was a community. You know, you couldn't step outside your house and act a different way because you knew that you were accountable to your aunties, uncles, neighbors, whoever else. Where did that breakdown in family come from?
That breakdown in family came from, you know, and I had some friends of mine that go to my community or that go around somebody that was born and raised on the road and say, man, all y'all the same, y'all come from the same cloth. He said, of course, you know, yes ma'am, no ma'am. But when you was on River Road, every female there was your aunt. And every male there was your uncle. And you know, that's just where it went. It wasn't that Miss Sue, that's Miss Jane, that's Miss Smith. It was Aunt Hannah, Aunt Rachel, Uncle Walter, Uncle Hawk, stuff like that. And everybody, and you came up with that code. It was a code of respect of who you was and what you was. But I think that lasted until maybe 59 out after the road. I think one of the biggest tragedies that we had today, and I would say it, and I would rule my grave saying it, I think when we took the Lord's Prayer out of school, that's when the world just went buckwalk. I think the Lord's Prayer was something that was governed the schools, saying the Lord's Prayer in the morning around the flagpole and pledge allegiance to the flag. It was a big thing back then in the early 50s and 60s. I think when we got a little model. I guess we didn't believe the Lord no more, so we decided to take the Lord's Prayer out of school. I think when we did that, I think that was a downhill trend of where we are today and time that we're in today, and why we're going through what we're going through today.
How important was spirituality to your family and to the community?
Well, spirituality was a great thing, I guess, because my granddad was a minister. I had two uncles was a minister. My mom and all was digging. That's my daddy was a deacon in the church. My grandfather was a deacon in the church. So I had too much choice but to say, yeah, praise ye the Lord.
And as far as the lessons that you learned, how often did the conversations revolve around the history of River Road? I'm just very interested in learning about that knowledge being passed down, because you know so much about, you know, the burial grounds and about where you were that time. How much did your father, your grandfather, whoever else, how much did they talk to you about, you know, the Reconstruction period and just the building of that community?
I was just old enough to see the black men on River Road to go get trained by the train that came and stopped on River Road. It picked up the black men on River Road, was able to work, wanted to work, and willing to work, to go down to the White House and build a bomb shelter at the White House. They caught the train mid-morning, went down and came back in the evening time and got off the train. I seen them go up River Road to the Stone Quarry, which was about 6 of them up there, and most of the blacks worked in the Stone Quarry. All the big pretty homes, you see all the pretty stones down in Spring Valley and up all through Potomac and Kenwood was built by black stone that went to my church. You know, it was a family named Wells, and that's what they did. They was good at it. And man, they laid some stones, some cornerstones, did a great job in doing that. Bradley Boulevard was built by the blacks of River Road. And I go back as being one of the first 2 black born in Suburban Hospital on maternity wing, which was funded and sponsored by the Macedonia Baptist Church. Most of you guys don't know that.
Wow.
And that was funded by the church. The first place maternity ward on Suburban Hospital on Georgetown Road was funded by the Macedonia Baptist Church.
That's a lot of history right there. Let's give Mr. Matthews a hand. Talking to the city down here, you know, I thought Montgomery County, you know, these days you go to Tacoma Park, around there you got a lot of black African immigrants, of course. You go to Western Park over there by Friendship Heights, or outside, you know, Bethesda, all that, very suburban-like. So it's very interesting just hearing all of that. I want to pivot to Ms. Marsha real quick. You're a Detroit native. You know, if you could just speak about, we got some Detroit natives in here too? You got some Midwest people?
Detroit.
I like Detroit. I've been to Detroit. Detroit, shout out to Motown.
Yeah,
Let me tell you that.
yeah.
Shout out to Motown. Can you talk about your experiences with Macedonia, your introduction to the River Road community, and the feelings that were inside you just learning more about that history?
One of the things I did want to say about Mr. Matthews being born in Suburban was that before they built the colored wing of Suburban Hospital, the black families came to Washington to have their children at Freedman's Hospital at Howard University. And so one of the reasons why there was a need to build that colored wing was so that they didn't have to travel all the way from Bethesda to Washington to go to the hospital. And so he was, and another thing I just wanted to pick up on too in terms of the environment that they lived in, and that is that because of the lynching museum, we now know that there were 3 lynchings in Montgomery County. So that when Mr. Matthews talks about, when he discussed feeling surrounded by the white community, this was not a friendly enclave. This was a very dangerous situation. This was a very hostile environment. And the people in Montgomery County and Bethesda would have known the families of the people who were lynched because there was a lot of communication among the various black communities. And I just think it's important for us to sort of call out their names. And so we had the River Road community, we had Tobytown, we had Reno Road, which is very close, a black community of Reno Road. We had the Scotland community, which is in Potomac. We had Liddensville, we had Farm Road. There were so many black communities, so much land ownership in Montgomery County that if we looked at it in terms of a macro discussion or economic discussion, we were talking about billions of dollars of land being taken away from the black community. Again, this issue of intergenerational wealth is very important. What happened to the money? Where did it go? And what happened to the families that were separated from that money? So I became, I moved to Bethesda because I was, when I moved to this area, I moved here because I had received a teaching position at the American University. And so I think I was the first black professor at American University. And it was a very, very, very difficult environment to be in for a lot of reasons. One was because the black students at American University at that time didn't really have a voice. They didn't really have an advocacy. They didn't have professors they could go to that could plead their case. And so I became sort of the centerpiece for that in terms of the black students at American University. And then I had a lot of white colleagues who didn't think I should be there because I was black. So, so it was a very hostile environment, and I lasted 3 years and just had some really horrific experiences. I was attacked by a white professor while I was there. And so there was just a lot of difficult experiences. But the good thing is that after I left American, I went to work for the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. And after that, I went to work for the United Nations. And so I sort of was able to build on that experience. But we were living in Bethesda because Bethesda is so close to the American University. And we were looking for a black church to go to. And one day we saw these black people in McDonald's across the street from Macedonia. And I went like, wow, there's a black church around here. And that's how we started going there. And my husband became very involved. And first he was a deacon, and now, of course, he's the pastor of the church. So for me, when I heard about this struggle, it really touched me so deeply. Because Detroit is also going through the same kind of, and you call it gentrification. I'm not sure if it's the gentry moving into our communities, but I know it is ethnic cleansing. And so Detroit is also going through ethnic cleansing. And we have like you do, we have a very rich culture in Detroit. I like to say that the whole world sings Detroit. Everybody sings Motown. And all that's being erased. And at some point our culture will be situated in a museum, and there will be a story about a black community that used to live in Detroit. But in fact, we created a very rich culture there. So when I saw the situation occurring, and when I heard about the situation occurring in Bethesda, it reminded me very much of the community that I love so much in Detroit. I just wanted to go over one other part that Mr. Harvey touched on, because we were at the same meeting in Montgomery County. And so we're at the planning board, a meeting at the planning board. And basically they had just called us in to check off. It was just, we had community leaders come in. We've checked that box and now we can go on. So they had already accepted a sketch plan. They had already accepted a preliminary plan for building this garage and these apartment buildings on top of Moses Cemetery. They in fact lied at the meeting when Mr. Harvey said that there was a cemetery. They said, oh, no, there's no cemetery. There's no cemetery in that area. If there was a cemetery, it was moved a long time ago. They just absolutely lied. And so we had to go through Freedom of Information to that whole process to sort of connect the dots and realize that the county had been lying to the citizens of Montgomery County for years about the existence of a cemetery. I mean, just blatant lies. And even today when they write to our group, they will call the cemetery an alleged cemetery. So they still have not been able to come forward and be truthful about the fact that there are 500 African souls under that ground. And so for me, this was an easy struggle to get involved in, because here was a community in Montgomery County that had gone through 400 years of the most savage and barbaric treatment that human beings have ever experienced on the planet. They somehow survived, this experience. And remember, Maryland was a breeding state. I mean, after what they call the Atlantic slave trade, or what I like to call it the European and American trade in human beings, the European and American trade in African citizens, which is really what it is. We keep using the word slave because you don't want to talk about human beings. But let's begin to decode all these words. Let's start calling people instead of calling them slaves. So this was a trade in human beings. And so after this trade ends, his community found a sanctuary on River Road, and they began to build this community. And then in 1955, early 60s, the corporations came in and basically decimated a community that had already been decimated. So, and then when we appear on the scene in the 2000s, they actually lied to us and told us that the bodies were not there. It was just one insult upon another insult for me. And so this is all about truth-telling as well. We must force these government officials to be accountable to the community. And we have to force them to tell the truth, because clearly this is not their natural instinct. So we have been forcing the county to tell the truth about this community. And this was an amazing community, but we were never supposed to know about this community. And one of the reasons why we weren't supposed to know about this community is because when you have structures of white supremacy, it's hard to maintain these structures of white supremacy when you have black communities that are rebutting and refuting this issue of white supremacy. You had a black community that you basically put on the worst land in Montgomery County. They flip it around to such an extent that now you want the land that you thought was useless, and then you go back and you take it away from them. That is it's just unbelievable what they did in this community. So, so when I found out about, and we are still learning about this community. We've just started the process. We're at the top layer of understanding this community, which is why the American University class is so important, where we have these young scientists, social scientists that are doing research in the community. We have other people, historians, who are doing research, because this is a history that we were not ever supposed to know about. They thought when they put the asphalt on top of the parking lot and they buried those bodies 30 feet, I think, 30 feet under the, 80 feet under the parking lot, that sealed the deal, that no one was ever going to find out about this community. But now we know. And so let me just make my appeal right now. If you don't mind, we need help. I mean, I'm like Brother Harvey. I think when you need help, you need to say you need help. This is a huge struggle for us. We are underfunded. We are fighting a $13 billion corporation. We're fighting a government agency. And the reason why we have advanced as far as we've advanced is because the community has stood behind us. So if you're interested in working with us, can you hear me? No? Yeah. So if you're interested in working with us, please let us know, because we need help. We need everyone to come to our meetings every Friday, 1 o'clock, Macedonia Baptist Church, in our Friendship Hall in the basement. We have an evening program the third week of every month on Thursday at 7 o'clock. It's a potluck. So come out, break bread with us, help us organize, roll up your sleeve, come out and demonstrate with us. If you're a writer, like Sam, please write articles. Every single person can do something. We can all contribute to this. So if you've heard something today and it's really touched you, we ask you to please come out and help us.
All right. Very beautiful and very poignant. Question kept popping up in my head. 500, the remains of 500 ancestors. Where did that number come from? Where did that estimate come from? If you could just break that down for us.
It is an estimate. It's not an exact number. We are still trying to get a handle on how many souls are underneath the parking lots. So we have anthropologists, we have people who are interested in archaeology. So we are still trying to get a handle on that. Montgomery County did not keep accurate records of Black births or deaths during this period of time. And so it is an estimate. It could be more than 500, or it could be less. But this was, the church, Macedonia Baptist Church is now on sort of the left side of River Road, but during this period of time, it was actually right in front of the cemetery. So the cemetery was in back of the church. And so We're not sure, but we know that there were hundreds of Africans buried in this cemetery.
And once again, if you can break it down, once again, for the millennials and the Generation Z people younger than the millennials who, you know, don't really have a conception, because we've come up in a time, even with everything that's still going on, stuff's still the same, but, you know, we're spoiled in the sense that, you know, people have markers, you know, on their grave sites when they die, and people, you know, they can go to cemeteries and see their loved ones, you know, memorialized. Why was it? What did the cemetery look like before the pavement was put over it? You know, how were African ancestors memorialized on that site way before the construction started?
Well, how they was memorialized was, like I told you, we used to play in the cemetery, so I have a good knowledge of what a gravestone looked like back there then. The gravestone back there then, like I told you, at the base of the cemetery, it was a creek bed. It had these big pretty white stones used to be down in the creek. And a lot of people used to get those stones out of the creek, take a chisel, and chisel mom, dad, whoever name in it, put a date from so-and-so to so-and-so. And then I had some ancestors of mine, some family members of mine, that built homes. And what they used to do was take and make a box of a cross out of wood and pour concrete in it. And once that concrete set up and got hard, they knocked the wood away from it, and that became a cross. And then you went to the grave site, stuck one tip of it down in the ground, and that was your cross, headstone. And sometimes of this flat rocks that they got from the quarry, and had just chiseled the names in there and stuck them in the ground on top of the grave.
So I'm assuming somebody made a lot of money. Somebody in the community, of course. Every community you have, you might have a bread man, you might have somebody who, like you said, sells manure to, you know, the folks in town. So there was somebody or a group of people who were doing stuff like this pretty much, or in terms of commerce.
Yeah, it was mostly family members. It wasn't like you had a stone quarry, you know, you had people that work with stone. You had the cinder block place, they worked in cinder block and the bricks. But these people just did on the sidelines thing as a family member. It wasn't something they had a shed, a place where they did it on a regular basis. It may be a relative or something had died. And the cheapest way out was to go get you one of them stones and just make your own headstone.
Okay. So once again here, I'm seeing history repeat itself, right? So for those of y'all who aren't very familiar with DC, you know, and just other areas that have been wiped out, oftentimes what happens is, right, so say for example, if you're living around Kennedy Street or something like that, and your family got pushed out of their home, oftentimes you might find the old residents of that community come back. They might post up, you know, around the old meeting spot, or they might go to, you know, the stores that were in that community. So I'm curious to know, what was your relationship with the River Road community after 58, 59, when your family left? You know, how did you keep coming back? You know, I know River Road is right next to DC, but like, how often did you come back? You know, what was your relationship?
Well, during that time, I told you I was a caddy at the country clubs, right on up until Taggart came up and started coming up in. I've been a caddy. I've been a member of the Macedonia Baptist Church for 51 years, so my church was always there, so I always had to come back. My mom and my sister ran a restaurant and a luncheonette right there on River Road. Some of you might be familiar with Tyler's Ice and Beverages there on River Road. Between my mom and my sister, they might have gave about maybe 70 years of their lifetime working in that store. My two brothers and myself, when we got out of school, we all worked at Tyler's. And that was another place on River Road that a whole lot of blacks worked at, was Tyler's Ice and Beverages. We all also came up together there with P. Frank and Herb Bella there on River Road with Tyler's Ice and Beverages. And then when Marriott's first corporation headquarters was there on River Road, and a lot of the blacks, we cleaned the buildings at night and all that stuff for Marriott. And that was his first office. And our biggest thing, we was kids, was watching Marriott come in with the helicopter and land on the roof of the Marriott building. And as us being kids, that was real something exciting to run and see him coming in on the helicopter. But he hired most of anybody that could walk, crawl, or whatever at night to clean his buildings and those just trucks on the docks and whatnot. So work wasn't a thing of scarce that we was on the road, because we were pretty much, you know, was working people there.
Got you. Before we open it up for Q&A, and we also have room for a couple of announcements from the community. Is Baba Kamal still here, by any chance? Is he? All right, that's fine. I'm going to make the announcement then. But in a minute, we're going to open the floor for questions. People in the audience, I hope y'all been listening. You know, I really want you guys to pick our guest brain in a couple of minutes. But I want us to pivot back to the movement around Moses African Cemetery. So, Ms. Marsha, you said there's no room for compromise, of course, and you outlined your vision for that. If you can go deeper into that vision, right? So, when the land is taken back and into the hands of the community, how does that look like exactly? You know, who is going to have control of it? What's going to be built on that land, and how is it going to be used?
So we're asking for the corporation, which is the HOC, Housing Opportunities Commission, to convey the land back to Macedonia Baptist Church. Macedonia Baptist Church is the only surviving institution, black institution. It's the only black church in Bethesda now. We've lost all the other churches in Bethesda, Maryland. So we're asking for that land to be conveyed back to the church. We have a lot of movement, I must admit, so my optimism is not unfounded. We're meeting with Regency Centers, I think on the 12th or 13th of this month. We've been in negotiations now with HOC for a while. So there is movement. And there's movement because we have community support. If we didn't have community support, we would be like the other black communities that have faced these incredible odds. So what does it look like? Where the remains are located, and I've got to say this too, we are looking at a mass grave. We think, as you know, as Brother Harvey talked about, at some point, HOC decided just to bulldoze hundreds of remains into one big mass grave. So we actually have a situation where we have a mass grave on River Road, just like mass graves in Germany and other war fronts where people decide that they're going to desecrate. So we are looking at a mass grave situation. And so one of the things that we like to do is to have a memorial in that area, because you're right, we may never know all the names. So it's almost like the tomb of the unknown soldier. There are a lot of people who will never know their names that are located in the mass grave. So we'd like to have a memorial there. One of the challenges that we're facing is that there's also a storage company that the planning board just gave a permit to build a 70, how is it, 70 feet? Yes. About 70 feet, right? And so one of the problems that we have is that you have HOC, which is a very tall apartment building, and now we're going to have a very tall storage company in the same area as the mass grave. So it's going to dwarf almost any kind of memorial that we erect in that area. So one of our struggles, it's a new struggle, so we really need help. I'll keep saying that over and over again, because everybody here can do something and we need everyone's help. So the latest struggle we have is to stop the building of the storage company. We need to stop it. Now they have the right to build the storage company because the planning board gave them that right, but it is the wrong thing for them to do. They need to respect the fact that there's a mass grave there and find another place to build a storage company. So we need help. We do need help to organize this struggle, which is a little bit different than what we've done in the past. And we've also asked Regency Centers to give us a prominent area of land on River Road for a museum. And now we have communities in Montgomery County that are coming forth with artifacts of loved ones and all kinds of different things that we can display in the museum. So we want to be able to teach our children about this amazing community that survived the breeding camps and everything else that this community went through. And Montgomery County does not have a proper museum of African history. And so many of you have seen the New York African Burial Ground project, I assume. So we're looking at something on that scale. So we want it to be a place of pride and dignity for all the residents of this county. But not only this county, but I'm in discussions with the AU, the African Union, because these are African citizens underneath the parking lot. These are people from Nigeria and Ghana and Ivory Coast, and so we want also African countries to take ownership of their citizens that are underneath this parking lot. And so we're in discussions with the AU so that we can truly make this an international effort where we have both the African American history part of this museum, but we can also trace this community back to its original origins in Africa.
Let's give them a hand, family. Give them a hand. Y'all gotta go harder than that, man. Y'all gotta go harder than that. That was such a beautiful interview. Very edifying for the soul. Just in the sense that, like we said, it's an exchange of information between the elders and the young people. And you always need that for the continuation of our civilization as Black African people. The floor is currently open for questions. We're going to take 3. Please keep it short. No statements, no pontificating, please. Just keep it short and sweet. Kindly asking you. 1, 2, and with the third one. Okay, so for the time being, first 2 questions. All right.
Yeah, first of all, I thank you for sharing this information. It's very valuable. And my questions are, 1, is there a plan to write a book about this history? 2, how about, I don't know, you are talking about Macedonian Church. Is there an organization behind this movement?
Yeah, I think there are going to be a number of publications, and publications are already starting to come out. There are a number of articles about the struggle and about the history of this community. I think there's a real need to have a compilation of a lot of this information in one place. And so maybe it's one of the things that I'll talk to Dr. Pine about at some point. But clearly we need to have a comprehensive history of this area. But we're still in the beginning stages of this history, of finding out about this community. As I said earlier, we were never supposed to know about this community. It was hidden, it was buried, it was covered up. And so this is a very exciting area of research, of investigation. And there are a couple of organizations in terms of Macedonia Baptist Church. There's a coalition that I discussed, which is the Macedonia, which is the Bethesda African Cemetery Project. We're now codifying a museum. So now we don't have it yet, but we're working on our logo now, where we're actually going to have an NGO or a 501c3, so that we can start raising money around to build the museum. So the museum will be built by both private and public sector funds. And so we're beginning to organize for that project as well.
Yeah, Mr. Hart?
No, what's wrong? Go ahead. Sorry.
I was trying to find out if there is an organization for the history of the African American River Road. Like now, you were saying that you are going to talk to the OAU and that. But is there an organization that states here in Maryland, an organized body, which is advocating on behalf of the African American, River Road population?
Yeah, that's what I was saying, is that we have a coalition of groups at this point that have come together to organize around the River Road African struggle. Right now, you have to understand, we're still in a struggle. It's very much, in a sense, like a civil rights movement, where we're still in the process of protesting. We're still in the process of even getting the county to admit that there are bodies underneath the parking lot. So we have a coalition. It's a very loosely formed coalition at this point. But we do have a coalition that basically is organized to carry out these kinds of activities. And then in addition to that organization, we have another organization that's been organized to begin to raise money so that we can build the museum. So there are two organizations that are in process right now.
Ask your question, honey?
Yes.
Okay.
More or less.
More or less. Okay.
But join us, and then you can help us organize more, because that's essentially where we're at this point. We're definitely still in struggle. And so it's not like we're 20 years past. We are in struggle at this very moment. Yeah.
So, Mr. Matthews, I heard you describe the way the different African communities in Montgomery County interacted with each other. I found it rather fascinating. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, Scotland and Tobytown and Gibson Grove and all the others.
It's both. I guess you would say it's like 6.
Oh yeah.
It's both. How they mostly stay in contact is about 6 black churches that we had back there during that time. And it's funny how when you look at the history, to Pearl, your question, we all doing some of that. And you had so many people like on River Road, they married somebody in Calvin John. Somebody in Calvin John married somebody in Scotland. But when you only had that one central black school, everybody also stayed intact. And as you got older and went on to the white schools, still, a great percentage of the blacks stayed together in those schools, and like Richmond, Montgomery, and Bethesda, gentrification, those schools, and it was still the same thing. So people in Scotland were people on River Road, and just ran around a revolving circle. And that's how it stayed so tight in unity, because everybody knew everybody, and everybody pretty much was akin to somebody. I can take myself down. Those 4 churches that still exist, then my family, nieces and nephews are involved in those churches. They married into the Dove family, or someone that's in Scotland, or someone that's in Rockville, and you pretty much stayed intact. So it's just that you had another church, another branch. But that's what we're trying to do now. We're trying to get all those black churches to come to one head, and all of us will unite. And Macedonia is reaching out with the pastor, trying to get reacquainted with these other churches. So we can have one big, like I said, big potluck or something else, so we get reacquainted, like you all have attended in the past. And that's what we started doing. We're trying to start over, because our pastor is about just a year and a half into the pastorship. But he wants to reach out and love everybody, but he's a loving pastor. He wants to reach out and love everybody. He's trying to bring everybody to one fold, even one tent, one umbrella, where we can keep this thing rolling. Like the gentleman here said, from the youngest in this room and to the oldest. But we want to give you that knowledge that you can use, that everybody can understand it, right down to a baby can understand it. We want to make it as plain as we possibly can make it. But like you say, we need help to continue to struggle, and we look forward to somebody in this room reaching out to Marsha or myself, letting us know that you can help us in some kind of way. Like Sister Lucy, we love her to death, because she's always there to support us and keep us going. So she has come also to me, Marsha, like a mother darling for us, because we're right there with her all the time. And that's what we need. And I thank Maryland University for coming in and helping us in what they're doing. I want you to know that we appreciate it. And y'all doing your reports. But if you need any help with your reports or anything you need to ask concerning River Road, feel free. Because right now, as I sit before you, I am about maybe one of the last 4 descendants of River Road. And I speak of, my grandkids ask me sometimes, Granddaddy, are you scared? Are you scared of that? You know what they did to King, you know what they did to Malcolm, you know that? I said, no, I had nothing to fear, for God will take care of me. And what I gather here now, to pass on to you all. I have enough sense with one of my lawyers as an attorney, to take everything that Danny can also say to y'all here tonight. She had it on this somewhere in her house in Cleveland. So whatever happens to me, they got a legend they can follow on those discs to continue on this struggle when I'm going on the glory. But I thank God for my time and my vision. I just want you to know the word of prayer to be in your prayers, and that we will continue to keep on, and that we will win this battle. Like Marsha always say, we like David and Goliath, but you know what happened? Goliath. So you know what David did to him, so that's what we're doing. We want to be victorious in this struggle. And we ask you all to join hands with us and help us with our struggle. And may God bless you.
Let's give our guests another hand, y'all. Let's give them a big hand tonight. I want to thank y'all for coming out to the All Eyes on DC show tonight. This was a show that was months and months in the making, and I just want to say this is a special show in the sense that Miss Marsha was very instrumental in just coordinating and bringing together the guests and just, you know, with the promotion and the outreach. So I really want to thank her for that. She was very passionate, one of my most passionate All Eyes on DC guests to date, as far as just the background coordination. So please give her a hand, you know. And I think that really speaks to her background as an organizer. I want to thank Mr. Harvey as well, just for being so candid and being so open about the history and just laying out the groundwork as far as just what it was like for black people on River Road. I think that history and that knowledge is very important, so we have to give them a hand. Before we wrap up, this is the part of the program where we fight to keep the lights on, so to speak. As you can see, we have camera equipment that we want to upgrade. We have a sign that we want to make new. And we also have a website that we got to pay for every year. So I'm kindly asking, you know, if you could just dig in your pockets, $1, $2, doesn't really matter. Any bit helps. We want to pass the plate around. This is a grassroots organization. I have a day job. I have a lot of day jobs, as a matter of fact. I write, I edit, I tutor, I teach. So none of this that you guys are giving tonight goes to my food or my bills. It all goes to the All Eyes on DC movement. So every little bit you give is very appreciated. The plate's going around right now. As a matter of fact, Ben, if you could facilitate that for me. Special shout out to my brother Ben right here. He's been on the front lines as well. He does his thing quietly, so you gotta give him a hand too. So now we'll be back next month. The topic is to be determined, but if you follow the Sam PK Collins page or AllEyesOnDC.com, you'll be sure to find out. You know, as always, it's a pleasure hosting this event. A special shout out to Sanko for Video Books and Cafe, for Sis Giselle, Sis Alexis for their help, Brother Tensai for opening the cafe and preparing, and his team for preparing such beautiful meals. It's a family effort, and we can't do it without y'all. To our consistent guests who keep coming out time and time again, to those who were just here today, we appreciate y'all. We're all part of the ecosystem, so every little bit counts, y'all. My name is Sam P.K. Collins. I'm a grassroots journalist, and I'm the host and founder of All Eyes on DC. Many, many thanks to y'all. Enjoy your night, your evening, and may you have gone away with something very edifying. Peace and blessings. Appreciate you, Mr. Harvey. Thank you, Mama.